Marty here, and today I'm going to show you part 3 of our courtyard video, where we're going to make these topiaries and a fountain. So, I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get right into the video! Okay, for this type of flocking, we are going to need a little bit of water, the color of paint that you want to use, and sifted sawdust, because we want it to be really fine. So we're going to take the water and we're going to put some paint in it, and I sort of just eyeball it as far as how much I need. And I put it in. And then we take some Elmer's glue, I forgot to mention, and just put a little doblet in. Whoa, too much. And you pour in some sawdust. Then I'm going to pour it out onto our foil I've got here. Also, I got this idea from watching people who do like train dioramas and stuff. And if they're in a hurry and don't want to wait for it to dry, they will put it on a cookie sheet and bake it. But I don't know anything about that, so I just lay it out and let it dry. So the thinner layer you have it, the shorter time it will take to dry. So I'm just going to spread it out and then let it dry, and we'll work on something else, like prepping the pet shop for the topiary. So, get all over the place. It looks, in the lighting I have right now, it kind of looks brown, but trust me, it's green. It's that kind of green. So, maybe if I turn this lamp off. That didn't really help too much. But yeah, so spread it out, let it dry, bake it, whatever you want to do. And then move on to the next step. Okay, first thing is picking a pet shop. I've picked this one for the topiary. It's one that was customized, I believe, when I got it. It's sticky. I think I got it at a thrift store. So we're going to take off all the paint off this guy and then start the process of flocking. Okay, once you've got it mostly cleaned off of the paint, there's still some paint inside of his beak, but I can't really get to that. Scrub him with some dish soap and warm water, and then he's prepped and ready to become a topiary. We take our dried flocking we made a minute ago, And this is actually flocking I made before. I found these containers at Michael's and they work really good for storing flocking. And they're only like $1 something. Anyways, so if you watched my Chewbacca video, then we're going to do it the same way we did that, only we're not painting the eyes. If you haven't watched my Chewbacca video, what are you doing with your life? I mean, really. Okay, so I'll show you how to do it. You just use hot glue and the flocking. So I'm going to start with his head, and I'm going to start, I guess we'll start with his eyeball. Just put a little bit of hot glue down, and then take some flocking and just press it into the hot glue. And then just tap it off and repeat as necessary till his head's all covered. Okay, so this is the finished topiary. I took a piece of cardboard and made a disc and covered it in sifted potting soil because this guy was a little too top heavy and he kept tipping over. So, plus it adds like a little bit more, like he's a bush. So I'm going to try to make a few different topiaries, maybe not out of pet shops. And we'll see how that goes. I didn't do anything to the bottom of it because it's going to be down like that. But I kind of like it. It kind of resembles the flamingo that he started out to be. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm glad I picked a pet that didn't have a lot of crevices. Crevices? Crevices is. Anyways, you know what I mean. So that's a topiary of a flamingo for the courtyard. Next. Okay, so I'm going to make another kind of topiary. I've got some styrofoam balls and I've got a dowel here. I'm not sure what the diameter of this dowel is, but I sharpened it to a dull point. And I'm going to push the styrofoam balls on it. Careful not to come through and stab your hand. I find it's easier to get it through if you sort of twist a little bit as you go down. And I'm going to get it about there. And then I'm going to put the second one on. Okay, and I'm going to scoop these down towards the bottom. Let's get a pet to see how, whoops, come on guy. So I'm going to sort of do it about right there. And this guy can go about right there. Let's go right there. Okay, so it's going to look like that. And then I'm going to trim off the top right here. Okay, so we have the flocking again, and I've got one of the styrofoam ball at one side and one at the other side, so that I have a middle piece to hold on to while I'm gluing and dipping. For this, you could probably use tacky glue. You could just roll it in the tacky glue and then roll in this, but I want it to dry quickly, so I'm going to be using hot glue. But hot glue is going to melt the styrofoam a little bit, so work in a ventilated area and also work kind of quickly. But you're going to do it the exact same way that you did the pet shop one, where you put a little glue on and then dip it in and tap it and move on. Both of these covered, and I'm going to paint, trying to be very careful not to get it on the flocking I've already done. I realize now I should have painted this probably before I started flocking it, but you know, whatever. So I'm just going to paint this middle area here. Where I'm going to scoot the other one up to. While it's wet, I can go ahead and scoot that down. There we go. And then I'm going to paint the trunk of this tree. Again, being very careful not to get too much on the flocking. There we go. Then just let that dry. Okay, so now I have some matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to start with this little guy. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. I'm just going to dip my paintbrush in the Mod Podge and then just dab it on where I flocked it. Mod Podge dries clear. You could also use clear school glue, watered down tacky glue would work. Anything that dries clear. You could use spray Mod Podge. Yeah, anything that dries clear. It's going to soak into the flocking and hold it on. You're dabbing it, not stroking it, because if you brush it on, you're going to pull off more than if you dab it on. You can see on my paintbrush, some is coming off, but not nearly as much that would be coming off if I was brushing it. Okay, now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the fountain. I've got these strips that are 1/2 inch wide. After you heat up your hot glue gun, put a little hot glue on the edge. Let's get into the camera view here. On the edge like so. And then connect 2 pieces together. When that cools down, you can do the other side exactly the same way. And you can see here, of course, they're not even. Why? Who knows why? Who knows why? I cannot measure straight, apparently. But that's okay, because when it's all said and done, this is all going to be covered anyways. So, take a pet shop. You might think this is too short, but after we build it up a little bit, it's going to be taller. I've already made this set this once, but I felt like it was too big. This is 1 inch big. So I felt like it was too tall for what I wanted. So I went with 1/2 inch instead. Because once I put rock on it and everything, it's going to build up a little bit. So, now that that's all cooled down, go through and, before you do this, go through and like do this to your cardboard. It sort of makes it easier to bend. And then we're going to go through and start gluing on some more cardboard. If you can hear the wind, it's because I'm in the middle of Wizard of Oz, apparently. The wind is blowing like my entire apartment building will blow away. When you do this, make sure that the crease, the seam, is covered up by, not a seam, don't match up your seams, or else it's going to make a weak point. Okay, I've got 3 layers of cardboard here. That should be enough for what I want. I'm going to lay it down on a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to trace in the middle circle. This is going to be, oops, this is going to be the inside of the well. So I'm also going to put a line and a line. That way, when I'm lining the two up, I'll know it was cut this way and these two to match up. Otherwise, human error. If I try to put it in like this, it's not going to fit. It'll only fit the way it was cut in to make. So go ahead and cut that out. Okay, once you get those 2 marks lined up and you get the base pushed into your circle, you could also just put glue around the edge, glue it to a piece of cardboard and cut that out, but that's going to add, again, a little bit taller, which if you don't mind, that's fine. Then you're going to seal this in with your hot glue. Okay, so then I took a spool of thread and I traced out 2 circles. I also made a, how big is this? This is 1 inch wide, and it'll fit around a small glue stick. So I'm going to glue this in a circle like that, or I guess this is a sphere, and then I'm going to glue the 2 circles together and glue them on top of each other. That's going to be a podium in the middle of the pull for the pet to sit on. So I'll do that now. Okay, now that I've got this all glued together, the idea is I'm going to have a pet sitting here, and the water's going to be squirting out of the pet's mouth into the... Sorry about the traffic. The idea is I'm going to have a pet sitting here, and the water's going to be squirting out of the pet's mouth into the pond. Maybe like coming out onto this. I don't know. I haven't decided everything yet. But we're going to seal in the cardboard area here just by laying a very thin layer of glue and using the nozzle to sort of smooth it out. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because we're going to be putting texture on it anyways, plus it's supposed to be stone. So we're just making it so any gaps in between the stone areas will be covered and easier to paint. Okay, so then after you've got all this glued together, you're going to take your strips like you did on the castle wall, and you're just going to rip them into smaller sections and glue them to the outside of the fountain. Okay, I've pulled the pillar off of this because as I craft I find better ways to do things. So I'm going to use the hot glue gun to make some texture on here. I'm going to start with where the seam is, to cover the seam. And I'm just going to make like a... I did the double lines and then I went through and did a single line in between all those. I don't know why, but I did. And then I'm going to put glue on the bottom and re-glue it down to about the middle of our fountain. Okay, now we're going to paint the fountain, and I'm using a dark gray. It's actually my medium gray that I have. Okay, now that we've done the base of the fountain, and I went ahead and did all my dry brushing and everything off screen, I'm going to fix the centerpiece. I'm going to move this so you can actually see what I'm doing. I picked this bird, and I popped its head off because I'm going to adjust the head, because when it was on I want it to sort of sit like that so I can shoot some water up and in. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, or not my X-Acto knife, yeah, my X-Acto knife, and very carefully, if you are a child, please have somebody else do this, like a grown-up. And if you're me, you should probably be having a grown-up do it too, but since there's no responsible adults around, I have to do it myself. So I'm just going to shave this down a bit so that the plastic will shoot everywhere. The idea is so that I can put the head back on, but be able to kind of adjust it back like that. Perfect. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm going for. So then I'm going to pop it off again and just sort of shave this down a bit just so that it doesn't have that big bump at the bottom. There we go. And then there we go. And then we're going to put the head back on. Position it where we want. And then we're going to hot glue it back like that and paint it. And you're going to paint it the same way you did your stone, where you use a medium base and then a darker one and then a lighter one. So just go ahead and do that. Okay, so I painted the bottom blue and I finished painting the pet, and I'm going to glue the pet on here to start with. So I need to make sure he's positioned about in the middle. Put some hot glue on his feet. Not so much that it's going to like spill out, but enough that it's going to hold him into place. Just stick him down. I don't know if I said this already in the video, but I painted I don't know what all footage I have recorded until I actually edit the video, but I painted the stone the same as I did on the courtyard. Then I've got a piece of string here. I'm going to put just a drop of hot glue in his mouth, and then I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and the string, and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to place the string in his mouth. Now this is not how I did the water in the other video. The other video I used a piece of clear plastic and I just painted it. But this is something I learned on watching some diorama videos. And then you're just going to put the string, or you're going to put a drop of hot glue in the bottom where the water is going to land, like so. And then again, use your X-Acto knife to push the, if you can get it to go down there. Okay, this is harder than it looked on YouTube. Okay, I had to glue it down off video because it was being a butt. So then we're going to go through and we're going to use the hot glue. I'm going to follow the string down. And then hold it like that and let it dry. Okay. So that kind of really worked good. I kind of really like that. That is a nice effect. And I will definitely be using that effect again. So then you're going to take your hot glue, and we're going to add some hot glue to where we painted it blue. And this is going to represent more water. Okay, off screen I went ahead and filled in all the water effect because it was too hard to do. But this part I want to try to do on camera. I put a drop of glue down where the water is hitting it and sort of tease it around to make it look like splashes as it dries, to make it look like that kind of looks good. I think that kind of looks good. Alright, this is a success. Success. Well, that concludes part 3. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you enjoyed the new effects I did, and I hope you enjoyed this whole series. I know I said I was going to make a tree, which I kind of did with this, but this I made out of just a cone of paper. But my tree that I was making was a fail, and this video was already really long, so I'll make another video later with the tree in it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to check out our merch and our Redbubble, our Etsy, our Instagrams. All that kind of stuff will be down in the description down below. And don't forget to stay weird, because it adds color to the world, and nobody wants to live in a black and white world. Bye!